Invent and Wander by Jeff Bezos. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Samuel and I want to make self-growth normal. If you want to make self-growth normal, because I don't want to do it alone, and who doesn't want to make self-growth normal, then make sure to smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. My first question is, did Jeff Bezos actually write this book? Was this book actually written by Jeff Bezos? Like, does Jeff Bezos even know that this book is out? I don't think he really sat down and thought to himself, you know what?
I'm gonna write a book. I'm gonna write one of those things that I started selling on Amazon.
I don't think that's what he did. I think that's what Bill Gates did. I don't think Bezos knows he wrote this book. I think he knows he wrote the contents, but the book is published under his name, so...
What?
I don't think that was deliberate on his part. I could be wrong, but he's not the one promoting it, that's for sure. Is he? Also, on a more serious note though, did Walter Isaacson have to take up an eighth of the book with this monstrous, one-of-a-kind intro? And I mean that in a good way. Isaacson's my favorite biographer. He explained how Bezos is like a lot of the other people he's written about. Geniuses who cared almost irrationally less about what they knew than what they did with what they knew. Geniuses who believe that curiosity and creativity are far more important than knowledge. It's just very not your everyday food for thought. Then he goes into the origins of Amazon, which many Bezos fans may know well. Eventually, when they started growing at like unreal speeds, and then the same emerging markets, did you know they're poised to move into health? Isn't that crazy? Prime during the dot-com bubble, Amazon Web Services, AWS, and how they compared it to the App Store, Echo devices, and failures like the Fire Phone, and even soon-to-be successes like Blue Origin, which focuses on lowering the cost of space travel. I want my grandchildren's grandchildren to be using way more energy per capita than I am, and I'd like to see us not have a population cap. I wish there were 1 trillion humans in the solar system. Then there would be 1,000 Einsteins and 1,000 Mozarts. How many people think like this? Seriously, who does this? When I tell people that like Jeff Bezos is like a hero of mine, it's because he thinks like that. Sugar! She's gaining weight. I think she's turning into a little potato. On donating to efforts to legalize gay marriage and economic views that express individual liberty, he said that a free market economy, which by necessity creates a lot of liberty, that happens to work well in terms of allocating resources, but the merit of the free market arises from not just its efficiency, but also the moral value that it offers to the individuals. Something about this reminds me of something you'd hear in the biography of like a visionary like Steve Jobs or Ben Franklin, both of which, by the way, Walter Isaacson has written a biography for, and that like the Jobs like it's the most popular Steve Jobs biography, just behind Ben Franklin's autobiography. That's the most popular Ben Franklin biography. Anything this guy does, it's the best biography out. Like, serious. There are 2 parts of this book. There's the Shareholder Letters is part 1, and part 2 is called Life and Work. So we're going to talk about the Shareholder Letters, of course, and then we're going to talk about life and work. There are obviously in this part a lot of shareholders, to be exact 23. They started sending these out in 1997, I think, when Amazon went public. So I'm going to go over my favorites, or at least some bells and whistles that stood out to me from letter to letter. Some people might think that this half of the book is just pointless. like let's be frank. Like, you can easily find these online for free. I haven't looked, but 1, this is just half the book, and 2, if you want to think of it as paying for information that you can find free online, this information is all organized in a way that's laid out to best signify Bezos' view on business, life, and the world. Strategy, intuition, and invention, and wandering, and customer centricity. So, meh. This is Sugar, so you guys can see how big of a potato she's becoming. In Building for the Long Term from 1999, he said that as far as we have determined, no company has grown 90% in 3 months in size on the sales basis of over $1 billion. It's really impressive how Amazon this whole time has been able to focus on customer experience and profits, because they understand how capital efficient and effective their operations are naturally. In The Customer Franchise is Our Most Valuable Asset in 2001, he compares Amazon's inventory of everything from electronics to books to that of brick and mortar retailers, and how that variety is impossible. It is literally impossible to keep in just a big store, and how that inventory is not as attractive to customers. And the way he emphasizes, like, this dude is a quality salesman. He really is. He knew how to keep his investors interested even when the stocks were low. There was some technical stuff in this book though, like thinking about finance in 2004, that was kind of hard for me to follow. Like the way that Innovator's Dilemma was one of Jeff Bezos' favorite books. Like he talks about gross cumulative cash flows, net present values, free cash flow per share. What are these things? I did understand the end though. Higher inventory turnover and improving customer experience at the same time expand cash flow. He does discuss the benefits of investing in Amazon, which I didn't think he would, more than I thought he would, which surprises me, but it also doesn't, because again, these letters are like, they're to investors. But those letters can't just be, you know, a bunch of butt kissing, you know? They have to be like, they really do have to talk a lot about like what Amazon is doing and some of the different failures Amazon's faced and some of the different challenges they're facing and how they're handling it and how they plan to handle it and keeping the hope alive and stay, you know, it's always day one, just being really relentless about that mentality and being relentless about being relentless. Like anyone who thinks this letter, like he's just like, all right, I'm just going to write this as if I sat all these people down and I'm going to talk to them about just, you know, us making all the money in the world, like some sort of like Wall Street short stock salespeople thing. If that were really the case, Amazon would be scamazon, and they would be, you know, they'd be bankrupt. The same thing would happen with the antitrust laws, maybe something worse than what happened with Standard Oil last century. And I mean, you know, the whole thing would just be a mess. Okay? Maybe that's what's happening. Maybe it's just that in disguise. That'd be kind of scary. Most shareholder letters, however, it's the type of company where every one of them will mention the first one from 1997, the year they went public, saying, we always include a copy of this letter in all of our letters to let investors know how we think about things and choose for themselves whether Amazon is the right company for them to put their money into. Because if you read the letter and every one of them after that letter and you take a look around, Amazon simply does not see the relationships between shareholder interests and customer interests the way other public companies do. I have not ever heard this. I think I've heard something similar with Apple, but that's Apple. You know, it's not Joe Schmo's Pizzeria. And when Joe Schmo's Pizzeria starts looking at the shared interests of the shareholders and the customers, more power to them. Listening to Setting Goals in 2009, it dawned on me that Invent and Wander and how they pertain to the adventure of Amazon's growth, I couldn't really see that much. I mean, I guess I could because there were so many improvements that Amazon made to not just customer experience, but services or products like Amazon Web Services or cloud computing and acquisitions like Zappos and Levi's. And I think like a couple years ago, they bought JCPenney or Macy's, one of those big box retailers, and Whole Foods and the Washington Post. And they put $440 million in this electric auto company called Rivian, who I heard of when Tesla came out with a Cybertruck and everyone was freaking out and they ran out of deposits for orders in like 0.3 seconds. I just found myself wondering specifically why over half of this book is taken up by shareholder letters. Like specifically shareholder letters, because so much of these center around the needs of shareholders and what they have in common with the needs of customers. And understandably so, I guess, it makes me wonder, it really does, what shareholder compilations are like for other, like, you know, megalithic companies like Facebook or, very interestingly, Berkshire Hathaway. Warren Buffett's shareholder letters are like, it's like reading gold. In The Power of Invention in 2011, though, he does say, for example, that invention comes in many forms and in many scales, but the most radical and transformative of inventions are often those that empower others to embrace their creativity and chase their dreams. In Fundamental Tools in 2010, I really love like what he says about how Amazon, every day they basically face problems with solutions that they are just past the border of what we know for a fact. That, you know, this is doable because we learned about it in school. It reinforces the need of shareholders to understand Amazon over time was transitioning from an e-commerce company into a technology company, primarily. Which one do you guys think they're more known for today? Please let me know in the comments below. I'm very curious about this stuff. Here we are, part 2. Life and work. I have to admit I'm a little bit disappointed with the second part of the book. There are certain insights and stories that Bezos has shared in most of his interviews on YouTube at least once. Maybe repeatedly in the last 5 years. But it was nothing new. Some of them, to be completely honest, you actually hear 2 or 3 times in this second part of the book. Like the one about soul searching to make the decision to start Amazon after talking to his boss about it at his previous employer, D.E. Shaw. I believe it was a Manhattan investment firm. You hear this story 3 times actually, maybe 4. One in the introduction by Walter Isaacson. When I said that I really am not sure that Jeff Bezos knows he wrote this book, that's what I meant. Who put this book together? Like, what I was hoping for, and maybe I got my hopes up a little too much, which I guess I understand, was more of like a 21st century My Life and Work by Henry Ford. I mean, this part is literally called Life and Work. It shares more life philosophies than work philosophies, at least in the first half, almost disproportionately more. You hear the work philosophies in this book much more in the Shareholders Letters. In the second part, you'll hear this like stories about like the one theoretical physics equation that he was looking at in Princeton that he and his roommate just couldn't solve. They looked at it for like 3 hours trying to figure it out. And they just couldn't, so they went to the smartest guy in school who took a good look at it for maybe 1 or 2 minutes, and then he just said,
The answer is cosine.
and they were like, what? And he's like, here, let me show you. So he wrote like 3 pages of notes explaining why, like really detailed notes. And Bezos is like, that's the moment I decided that I never wanted to be a theoretical physicist. Or the stories about his time with his on his grandparents' farm in Texas when he was younger. And how his grandfather was like the most resourceful person he ever met. And the thing with the butt hair on his thumb. They're really funny stories. Or his philosophy on thinking 3 years ahead of today. Or 300 years with the whole thing with like the solar cells and the baseline energy usage and how it's compounding at a rate of 2 or 3% every year. And it's been doing that for the last like 100 or 200 years. And if we do the same thing for 200 or 300 more years, we will literally have to cap our own energy usage, because in order to sustain life on our planet, in that case, we will literally need to cover the entire surface area of our planet with solar cells. Really, really like out there stuff, but it's just as out there as it is true. I think I have heard from someone though that that's like inaccurate. If you guys know anything more about that in the comments, please feel free to correct me. At the same time, you do hear about where the idea for Prime and AWS came from, and his decision to buy the Washington Post and Whole Foods. You learn about his view on business partners who are missionaries versus business partners who are mercenaries. Missionaries are the ones who, you know, they want to be of service and make a difference in the world. Mercenaries are the ones, you know, they're just out there to cut people's throats and make money. And how the paradox is that the missionaries always end up with the most money. You learn about how he prefers work-life harmony over work-life balance. How there are people who walk into the room and their energy just deflates the room like a balloon. Sometimes you hear a fart noise. And there are other people who walk into a room and the room reflates. Is that a word? Reflates? It reinflates. Actually, let's just say reflates. If reflates is not a word, it sounds, to me it sounds cooler. It is a word now. They reflate the room. But my point is that those people, they bring home whatever energy that is. And work-life harmony is keeping a good energy all the time because it's work that you enjoy, or work that you're teaching yourself to enjoy. I've done that before for jobs that I really don't think that I enjoyed, but turned out okay in the end, even though I left all of them. Or they left me, and it was a horrible breakup, and I had to buy myself a pint of maybe Oreo or cookie dough ice cream and just watch The Fault in Our Stars and
Cry myself to sleep, and it was so sad. And
where am I going with this? So sure, maybe you could find all this info online, probably, for free, but that doesn't change its quality. And also, you couldn't find all of it organized like this and put into one place. I swear, most of the second part I had already heard before, more than once, by the way. The parts I hadn't heard though, those blew my mind, like the Bezos Day One Fund, when he talks about like plans of where he wants to put his money by the time he dies, which is not at all into space travel, by the way. And the part about one-way and two-way decisions and like who should be making them in a company, most of it, other than parts I heard like those, I had heard at least once. But books like this one, I typically find that what we're paying for here, aside from what we're not familiar with yet, it's really the compilation. Quotes. People who love all fields of knowledge are the ones who can best spot the patterns that exist across nature. We don't claim it's the right philosophy, we just claim it's ours. I value my BlackBerry. I'm convinced it makes me more productive, but I don't want to read a 300-page document on it. If you had gone to a customer in 2013 and asked, would you like a black always-on cylinder in your kitchen the size of a Pringles can that you can talk to and ask questions that also turns on your lights and plays music? I guarantee you they'd look at you strangely and say, no thank you. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Direction 1. I recommend this book for anyone who wants a peek into how Jeff Bezos looks at business, life, and the world. I also recommend it for really anyone who's interested in business, but they're not familiar with all of those things, like how he looks at these things. If you haven't seen a million Jeff Bezos interviews on YouTube, I swear that you're in for a treat. Or if you're not really familiar with, Amazon's philosophy on how they take care of customers or whatever. Direction 2. If you like this book, you might just love The Everything Store by Brad Stone for more on the history of Amazon, and you might also like My Life and Work by Henry Ford for more philosophies on life and business and huge concepts. But this would be by a member of the early 20th century mega rich. Invent and Wander by Jeff Bezos and Walter Isaacson. There's a link in the description if you guys want to check it out and read the reviews. That and all the other books that I mentioned in this video, if you want to check those out too. If you guys buy anything through the links in the description, then I get commission, which helps me build this channel and keep making these videos. If there are any other books that you guys want me to check out and review, please, please, please let me know in the comments below. Also, let me know if you checked out this book and you liked it. But hey, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, because I don't get why people watch this far into my videos. This gotta be like a 14, 15 minute video, and they don't subscribe. But if you have subscribed and you want to turn it up just a notch and turn on that notification bell to get a notification whenever I drop new videos, that would mean the world to me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. You can find me everywhere, and I will see you then.